All right, guys. So I'm going to do a little tutorial for lesson 13, part 4, because it is some new stuff and I want to make sure that you guys understand it before we move forwards. So in this particular part, they're asking for us to practice using an if statement that also has an if this or else statement that goes with it. So if you take a look at what they have here on the side for their example, you'll see that there's a swarm of bees, particularly there are 3 bees that are going towards the flower, but following your mouse. But when your mouse moves away from the flower, just like now, those bees also disappear. So first things first, I'm going to go ahead and just run what the program looks like automatically, right? And we see that we have these 3 bees and they are currently following my mouse. But the issue is that when I move away from the flower, these bees are not disappearing along with it. All right, so that is our task. So I'm going to take a look and I'm going to drag this workspace a little bit higher up so we can take a look. All this looks pretty good, but we are going to need an if statement. So I'm going to go to controls. I'm going to take an if statement. I'm going to make sure that that's within this green draw loop so that whatever I'm asking my computer do with this if statement is continuing to happen again and again until I stop the program. So now we have to figure out if what. So when I'm running again this, gotta get rid of that if statement. If I'm running this program, I'm really looking to see whether or not these bees have crossed a certain point on the x-axis because I'm going horizontally, right? The further I move away from that flower, the larger my x value is going to become. So I'm going to actually show the grid, and I'm just going to find a point that I think the bees should disappear after that mouse has reached a certain point on that x-axis. And I'm going to go ahead and say maybe like 250 on the x-axis looks good. If you look down below the reset button, you'll see that it says x250, y200. We can ignore the y because it doesn't really matter for us how high or low those bees fly. It really is about how far away they move from the flower, which is really just our x-axis. So once again, 250, good value. We're now going to input that into our if statement. So we're saying that if our x value becomes less than a certain point. So we said we want it to be less than 250, and that since we have 3 bees, we actually need to tackle this one at a time. So I'm just going to start off with B1's x value. And again, when it becomes less than 250, that means we're just getting closer to the flower. So when our B is less than 250, as we get closer to the flower, we want it to actually be visible. So you see in this toolbox, there's actually a block already made for you called sprite.visible. We're going to name that B1. And for visibleness, we can actually do one of 2 things. We can put the value 1 in, or we could type in true. And that is going to mean the exact same thing to your computer. So again, same thing. I could type in true. I could type in 1. It's all the same. I'm actually going to go ahead and, I think I'm going to type in 1 just so that we're practicing these new things. And all this is telling my computer is that, again, when that first B, that B1, that their X value, it's traveling, look at my mouse on the screen, when it becomes past 250, we want that B to be visible. And this is where that new else part is. So I have this little plus sign here. I'm going to click the plus sign. And I'm going to say else what. So I'm actually going to copy that, pull it in here. Oh, I'm going to do that again. Okay. So else just means like if the opposite is happening, if this top part is not true, right? So if the B's X position is not less than 250, meaning that it is past 250, right? It's further away from the flower. Do we want that B to be visible? We're going to say no. All right, so again, that's 0, or we could say false. Same thing. I'm going to opt for 0 here. All right, so let's read this entire if statement together. If my B's X statement is X position is less than 250 on the grid, so around right here, right? We want that B to be visible. So anything in this area, it will be visible. Or else, meaning that if it's past 250, which would be over here, far away from the flower, we want that visibility to be false. We don't want it to be visible anymore. And so again, false can be, you can put a 0 there, or you can type in the word false. Both versions your computer will understand. So we're just going to go ahead and do this for B2 and make sure that we're changing everything for B2. And we're also going to go ahead and do that for B3. And this is just going to make sure that each of the B's that were already created at the top over here, or at the top over here, that they all are doing the same thing. That when they are below 250 on the x-axis, that they become apparent, they become visible. And when they are not below 250 on the x-axis, that they become invisible. All right. And all of these, again, are in my draw loop. So it's infinitely checking for these things. I'm going to reset. I'm going to run, and let's test it out. So right now my B's are below 250. If you look at the X, it's below 250. And hopefully when I pass 250 on the X, oh, those B's disappear. Okay. So once again, when I get less than 250, they appear. And the moment that that X hits past 250, my B's disappear. Okay. So again, guys, this is just practicing that we have our if statement that you guys have seen in the last lesson, plus an else statement, just saying that, hey, if that if statement, if like the opposite of that is happening, if it's not what the if statement is saying, then what do we want it to do? If this or else this. Okay. All right.